Hey, so this trip to Europe, obviously you don't have your whole team.
Right.
Does that change the way what you can get done here? Does it change the way you view your team coming out of this? Obviously, Zach is such a...
Right. It changes what we run. Like we run different stuff when he's not in. So obviously we cater to him. We run a lot of stuff. We run a lot of ball screen stuff. Obviously he gets involved in a lot of it, but we put the ball in Zach's hands a lot. We put the ball in Braden's hands a lot. And so, like, obviously that'll stay. I would think some next guys in terms of being able to play through it, obviously be Trey Kaufman-Ring, Fletch, and some actions. So, but it's also one of those things that the game opens up more. You get more opportunities in transition. So just trying to work both offensively and defensively and just get better. Our one-on-one defense, needs to drastically improve.
I know you want to play Trey and Zach more together. How has that worked this summer? Have those guys clicked pretty well? And
it's been good.
On the other side of that, Caleb at the 5 and pick and roll and stuff like that.
Right.
How do you see those pieces fitting in?
Yeah, it's been good. It's about a third of the time, so we rotate it that way. Mason, Caleb, Trey, they all play the 4 with him about every third practice. So you get 10 practices, so you get to it to a degree, but still not very much data to actually make a statement about it, especially when I'm not here for a couple of them. Yeah.
Will you have Ethan?
What's that?
Will you have Ethan in Europe?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, this is when I came out, I didn't realize he wasn't going until I came back today. So he didn't go, I think, yesterday, but the day before that, he must have heard it then or tweaked it or something. What's that?
He grabbed it on Wednesday.
Wednesday? Okay. So you know me better than I do.
What can you thoughts on the conference realignment with the Phoenix Suns?
Yeah, obviously it's going to be harder for them than it is going to be for us in terms of travel. So when you get right down to coaches and stuff, we want to know the logistics, how we go places, how many days prep you have, things of that nature. I think that's what's going to change. So if you look at our schedule this year, without UCLA and USC, we're going to have no single-day preps. Okay? We're going to have all 2-day preps. Now that might be a Wednesday, Saturday, prepare on Thursday, Friday. It might be a Wednesday, Sunday. We're taking Thursday off. So each is a little bit different. I would think, and I'm guessing right here, with 4 of them coming into our league next August 1st, that I haven't crunched the schedule since it happened yesterday, nor would I ever. But you've done it long enough to where I would think we have to have travel partners. That would make sense for when Oregon and Washington come this way, and UCLA and USC they come this way, that they crack it and they play Indiana and Purdue, right? Or you go to Michigan and you play Michigan State. It just makes sense. They're not going to come here and play one game, right? You wouldn't think. And we wouldn't think that we would go there and play a lot of one games. I think we would have done that in the current situation without Oregon and Washington coming. But we were making one trip to the West Coast with UCLA and USC. And now obviously we might have to make 2. But you're not always going to play 4 games. People got to understand that. With an uneven, your schedule when it's not balanced and you have traditional 10 teams, you're not going to play at Oregon, at Washington, at UCLA, and at USC. That will never happen. So, but you're going to probably play 2 of them, right? But I'm guessing with everything. I think that's a lot of other people are talking about it. And they're doing the same thing. They're guessing. Even the people that are going to make that schedule, they've been, breaking all this down to get us ready for UCLA and USC, and now we have 2 more. So it'll be interesting. I would think that they would go like we protect rivalries. I would like to think that the West Coast teams would play each other 2 times apiece. So that would be 6 of their 20, right? And then be able to go from there.
Do you ultimately feel it's good for the conference?
Well, I ultimately think as a basketball coach, and it's more than just basketball. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's hard for me to put on a commissioner's hat or an AD's hat, considering I've never been one. You do what's best for everybody. And a lot of things is driven through money. A lot of things is driven through football and how much money football can bring you. And I don't say that as a knock. It's just the nature of the beast, right? And that's just the way it is. So I haven't taken a deep dive, and I would like to listen to other coaches in our athletic department what they think, because I can only talk about basketball. I know Oregon and Washington have 2 really good basketball coaches, wealth of experience, good dudes. And so a lot of times in leagues where, I'm going to go away from your question, a lot of times in leagues everybody just says the Big Ten plays a certain way, right? So you're saying that all 14 teams play exactly the same, but they got to be able to categorize it when you're doing an interview or you're writing a story. So they categorize it. Well, there's a lot of different, styles in the Big Ten right now. I think we play differently than some teams in our league. I think Iowa plays differently than some teams in our league. I think Michigan State plays differently than some teams. So it's not all the same. So when these teams come in, like Mick Cronin's the coach at UCLA, he was at Cincinnati. He's a Midwest dude. He's hard-nosed, defense, into you, runs good stuff on offense. So you'll see a lot of different people, and people want to kind of give it that broad stroke of saying they all four of those teams play the same way. It's not true. But it's not true in our league already, even though we can take a snapshot of it and say you have more similarities than differences, in your league, and that's what you kind of go by.
Going back to your current team, just with Trey playing that 4 more this year, what type of things have you been working on him with him going to that position?
Just defensively. Yeah, offensively he's a good scorer, and so getting him that post up against a smaller 4 really helps us. But he's a guy that can shoot on the perimeter. He can drive the basketball. He can play 4 or 5. But last year, we tilted it really from a defensive standpoint. We thought that was a better thing for us. And at the end, with our inability to score the basketball at times, you just don't feel that way on February 1st when you're 22-1 and you're the number 1 ranked offense in the country. You feel like, hey, it's good enough. And obviously it wasn't good enough. We had a slow deterioration offensively of it was just missing open shots when it gets down to it. And then when we coupled that with turning the basketball over, then it was hard for us.
Where is Trey right now in terms of that essential element of stretching the floor at the 4?
Well, it's he can stretch the floor and take that shot and play. He's fine. Offensively, he's a really good player. It's guarding different people. So whatever that presents itself in practice. So, that ends up being the question. And sometimes your practices aren't all scrimmages, right? Yeah. So you're working on other things. So you're not always working on the particulars that you're talking about.
In the last season, you talked about how the team had a lack of quickness. Do you think the additions of Miles Coleman and exchange helped that? Can you just talk about the additions?
Yeah, well, I think athleticism and quickness. I would say the 3 guys that give us the most athleticism are, Cam Heide, Miles Coleman, and then Lance Jones. So those are the 3 guys that we added. And then obviously Will gives us, more size. And obviously with Zach coming back, that doesn't help him for this coming year. But he also, had bone spurs taken out last year. And he's been out for a while, so seeing him out here, I thought he did some really good things. I thought all those guys did some good things. Lance hasn't practiced for a week, so it was good to see him get out here and get a game under his belt with everything. But no, we're excited. We feel with a couple areas where we needed more, we were able to do those.
Coach Kennedy going into the Hall of Fame this week. How much of a footprint is still in this program with what you do and how you operate?
I think just, he set a standard here, just a kind of a standard from a competitive standpoint more than anything. And, I always talk about anybody can have a good team if you have a good program. And really that just entails, are your guys getting a degree? Do you have guys that are working together? Do you have guys that sacrifice for your team? Things of that nature. Everybody wants it to work for themselves, and rightfully so. But he brought just a great camaraderie, cohesion, competitiveness, together. And that was his stamp. You kind of become the head coach. And I'm a really competitive person. I don't show it as much as he does. But people that are around me understand that. People that aren't, sometimes you just watch me in the game. I'm not like that. Because you got to be yourself. I think that's the one thing. We've taken a lot from him. And that's what you want in the program. You want to take all those great things that he instilled, in this program, but also run and do different things because your personnel changes and time changes, right? The game's different than it was when I took over, 19 years ago.
Trey was mentioning that talking to some older guys that have been on a trip like this before, they mentioned it ended up being one of the best trips they've ever been on.
Right.
So from your perspective, having been on trips like this before, is that kind of what you find as well?
Yeah, no doubt. It's more of, getting to know each other, being around each other more, just spending time and just kind of, letting your guard down a little bit. A lot of times when, you coach basketball, you play basketball, after the game's not over. Right? It still runs in your head. There's so many things going on. You got to talk to the media. As a coach, you got recruits. You get your schedule of what you're doing the next day. There, you're in a foreign country and you get to go sightseeing, or you got the afternoon off, or you just take a day to kind of relax there, unless you're traveling. But no, they're great life experiences for our guys.
What do you like most about Cam, Heidi?
Without going back and watching the tape, like I like today how he rebounded. I think when he got opportunities last year in scrimmages and stuff, he rebounded. So one thing that's really jumped out to me is that he's really, he makes an effort when he has an opportunity to go rebound the basketball. And I think that's something that can really help us. And I talked to him a little bit during and after the game, and you can't get away from this. I think this is great, that we get this time to really to play and do some things, and Zach's not here just because he carves out so many minutes. He plays all the time, and rightfully so. But how do you coexist with him? On our team, like how do you each one of our guys has got to be able to take a step back and say, do I give us a better chance with Zach-Ade? Because he's going to be out there, right? And so I think Cam's a guy that can really help us in that regard, to where he can knock down threes. And his athleticism and his length can really help us defensively and on the glass.